Veteran Minute.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Oh, Chicago, how I love you. I love my city so much. I'm so proud of our reaction to the newly named Pope Leo the 14th. We are very excited. I'm excited because not only is he from Chicago, but I'm also a Leo. So my astrological sign is also the Pope. Let me get your microphone here.
Oh, sorry.
Dan, why are you sorry? I didn't push the right button. Let me push your buttons, Dan.
I just show up. It's fine.
Hi.
Okay. All right. Family show. All right.
Yeah, that's okay. Hi. Welcome, Dan Schaefer, who will be taking over the second hour with me, and he'll have Jill Wine-Banks on, which is fantastic. So very exciting. But yes, I was telling my husband, I'm like, he went to St. Norbert's, so I think he's Catholic and possibly still Catholic. So Steve went to St. Norbert's and left after.
Briefly.
He didn't know you there, so. He hated
said
his roommate.
it wasn't his cup of tea.
He was somewhat not. He didn't have a choice in the matter.
Okay.
He was sort of guided that way.
Got it.
You know how that works.
Okay. All right.
So, how do you feel today with your new pope?
Honestly, I never thought I would see the day of an American pope, let alone one from Chicago. Yeah. And I thought it was going to be Supich. I'm not going to lie. Like, I thought if it was going to be anybody, it would be Cardinal Supich, which I'm glad they went the way that they did.
I mean, what? The memes are unbelievably fun.
Yeah.
I love the mirth and joy with my city is responding. Congratulations to all of us.
My cousins were sending me when I was driving in. Literally, it's the Chicago Bears colors, and she goes, "Da Pope."
Yes, we have that on our Jerry Pope. Put that up on our page. And look, I say this, and for those, and look, having lived a very public trauma, I understand for folks who have. I do not do this without being able to acknowledge the challenges, the absolute horrendous activity that has happened for centuries, not just the ones that we know about in the last several decades. So for those of you who this hits hard, I hope that I can pace this a little bit for you, but there is some folks are really celebrating, and this is it's just the fact that he was tweeting at J.D. Vance and basically telling him this is not how Catholicism works.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta find joy in that.
This is how the church teachings are. Mm-hmm. This is not what you're acting on.
Right.
And I like that in a leader where you can, and it's the Pope, right? Like, it's the Pope. 1.4 billion people, right, in the Catholic Church. And the fact that he can just be like, no, this is not in accordance with what Jesus would say or what, and when he talks according to doctrine, it's infallible. And so that's I'm glad they went in the same general direction as Pope Francis, because this person is very charismatic, empathetic. I don't know much about him, but I'm overall at this point, because it just happened, I'm happy with it. I really am. Yeah.
I liked Pope Francis.
Yeah, I did too.
I was a fan. Mm-hmm. There used to be a clinic on Elston Avenue, which is now an eye institute, and for years there were always protesters out there because it was a place where women went for reproductive health, and so I mean, like, they have like an altar there. If you go down,
giant.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about. That it's still there on the other side of the street in the parking lot, like a big altar. With an image of Jesus, and they would be in the street, like if we had our window down, like, and kids like handing out pamphlets through our window and stuff. And I remember when Pope Francis was elevated to Pope, he came out and said, basically, I also disagree with abortion. However, I do not think it's a priority. I think that we need to back off of these folks. And when this girl came to the window, I'm like, ask Pope what he thinks. Ask him. The Pope says you shouldn't be here. Back off.
Exactly. And you and I have had this conversation before where I myself will never need an abortion. I also don't view it as a revolving door thing where everyone's just going in to get one, because that's the way that it's been characterized.
Right.
But
It's been characterized that way.
If somebody needs access to it, they need to have safe access to it. And it's not an easy decision to make.
And the problem with picking and choosing and saying, except in the cases of, or if the mother is, the life of all those things, because it's none of your business why someone goes in to have reproductive health.
I don't want to say I don't care, but I'm just going to say as long as you have access to safe health care.
Yes.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm just saying. So I'm very.
And it is healthcare because women's reproductive rights is healthcare.
Correct.
So yes. Yeah.
I love you. I'm so happy you're here. This is a perfect day for you to be here because this just made me so happy today.
I'm glad you asked.
Because measles is spreading in Illinois, so I better be happy about something.
Yeah.
It's true. It's happening.
I know.
It's not only is it happening, but because of the levels of vaccination rates across the country, including places like we are below herd immunity vaccination rates in Chicago, and even worse rates of vaccination in like southern parts of Illinois, and so there are 6 confirmed cases throughout the state.
Okay.
So folks, there's a list of that I'll pull up and make sure that you know about. But there are folks who are born between, I believe it's born between 1964 and 68. You should check with your medical professionals because you were given a different type of measles vaccination, and you need to get vaccinated again. Pregnant women cannot get vaccinated or are advised not to because it is a live virus. So they ask that for anybody who thinks they need one, to get one, or else to wait till after you deliver. So at any rate, I work on that kind of research all day, and I have worries about the measles becoming endemic. And meaning that we are going to be living with it again as something that's just in the general population. Yes. And we had eradicated it. It was deemed eradicated in 2000.
Yeah.
And we now have the worst outbreak of this century, which I know this century is only 25 years old because it seems like a long time.
I mean, yeah.
Yes. I'm vintage now. Have we talked about this? I'm vintage.
I'm trying to figure out my camera thing right now.
Oh, is his camera okay? Can I fix his camera?
It's a little blurry. It's
a little blurry.
I'm trying to. It's fine. Talk about vintage.
You look. I'll adjust your camera. How's that? Do you want to look at yourself?
I can do
a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. What do you think? A little bit.
No, it's just blurry.
How about the other way?
We're good.
Oh, we're good.
Yep,
stop.
good.
Oh, it's not good. You just want me to stop.
I mean, God, now I look old. But all right.
Stop. I wish I could adjust these lights for us.
Oh my God, I have to tell you that Monday I threw my back out by just like turning the wrong way.
Oh, dear.
And I'm finally feeling a point where I can just like not scream when I move. So we're in.
Oh.
I've been sleeping on my floor for the past 3 days.
Oh no.
It was so much fun.
So I need to send you some stretches. Okay. Are you doing stretches? Are you doing like child's pose? Are you doing happy baby?
I'm not doing any of that.
Okay, we need to send you some stretches.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. People on there going, happy baby and child's pose. These are yoga poses that help you stretch your back. Happy baby, it's when you lie. I'm going to do this on the air. You ready? Hi, everybody, watch this. So you lie on your back and you grab the bottoms of your feet and just like, you know how babies like lay on their back and they kind of rock and you sort of rock back and forth.
Oh my God, that would make me cry. That would make me cry right now. Okay, no, but I'm good. I can at least like
get on the floor. I'm going to help you.
Okay.
I really am giddy today, Dan.
I love it.
I'm so happy. Well, and look, I don't know how this will unfold with the new pope, but I think. And the reason I'm getting, even though I'm not Catholic, I know, Irish and Mexican, not Catholic, very confusing for folks. I know, I was raised Mormon, baptized Lutheran, and married to the Catholic Church. Almost was not, because the priest was a more conservative priest and told my husband the only thing worse than being an atheist in the Catholic Church was being a Mormon. So that was fun for us. So we fired him.
Okay. All right, good. That's fine. You can fire a priest.
The reason I am excited is because, one, this pope is a critic of our administration, and it's making MAGA crazy. They're already calling him woke. Laura Loomer lost her mind online today. That Catholics aren't going to have.
Yeah.
They're mad, and they're like they hate the Pope. Only the Pope is the popes. Pope Francis, the Pope Benedict, the popes are chosen amongst their peers.
Yeah.
So they're saying this is who we choose to be the face, to be the leader of our church in order to spread our teachings and what we think should, right?
And technically they listen to the Holy Spirit is what I've heard over and over again. It's the Holy Spirit that makes the decision and they act on that.
Okay.
What I thought was very interesting about this particular conclave was 133 cardinals, 108 of them were appointed by Pope Francis.
Oh.
And he went out and he picked cardinals from countries that were not normally represented in the Catholic Church. So it's the most diverse conclave of cardinals that has ever happened. And you got people from Africa, India, places that were never even on the spectrum in terms of who should be representing the church. And so he appointed the majority of them. And I think that they chose the right person based on his legacy and how they wanted to see the church to continue to kind of progress, I would say, which I know that scares Catholics. But I think that it's the most diverse college of cardinals that has ever elected a pope. And
it's exciting. And they said the guy from Chicago.
Yeah. And then they pick someone from Chicago. So then they're probably like, oh, dear God.
I mean, to be fair, he's been in, is it Peru he's been?
He was in Peru.
Yes,
yeah.
So he was serving there.
But he grew up in,
near Dalton.
Dalton, Illinois. Yeah. But he grew up in Chicago.
So, well, someone said, wouldn't it be funny? Because I had to check, right? Because everyone was going to say he was from Chicago. So I was like, was he from Chicago?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, it's from Aurora. It's like, no, it's not Chicago. No.
Plus, they're saying he's a Cubs fan. I haven't gotten verification
I've
of that.
seen things I haven't verified. I don't know.
Because he's Southsider.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't. Yeah.
I think he also lived in South Holland, was what I read as well.
Yeah.
Either way, it's look.
This is really cool.
Yes, we would have made fun of the fact that they said he was from Chicago if he was like from Naperville.
Yeah.
But we still would take him as our own. But no, I'm super giddy. Oh, let's get to Jim. Jim, we got a couple seconds here. What are your thoughts? Did you have odds on Pope Leo?
Yeah, I had a trifecta. I was hoping he was from the west. I was hoping he was from the west side. He'd be Irish.
Yeah.
And he'd be a Sox fan, but apparently he's a Cubs fan, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But you mentioned what was more important, admonishing the Peter Thiel creation with that diatribe he gave Pope Francis about his theory on religion. And he answered that, I guess, last week in a tweet. And what's great about this is he knows American politics. He knows that immigrants are being squeezed. He knows that the Augustinians are great for visiting prisons. He's got to be absolutely perplexed by putting people in prison. And I guarantee you that the Republicans aren't happy about this election.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we weren't happy about the last Republican, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but this is I believe in the Holy Spirit. I'm Catholic, so I think that this was a perfect choice for the moment. But with America being torn apart, and I guarantee you that he leans Democrat. I bet my life on that. Anyway, Danny, it's good from hearing you and you too, Patty.
Thank you so much. Take care, Jim.
Take care.
You
too.
Hey, cheers, my friend. Cheers. Cheers to Chicago. Everyone, I'm not crazy that Malort is like the symbol for Chicago drinks now. I'm going to go with old style. Yeah. There's one where he comes out on the balcony and then underneath it says old, like a big old style served here.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. You know how excited I am? I'm excited that I have Dan Schaefer in studio. He's guest co-hosting with me now. He'll be taking over the second hour, and he'll be talking to Jill Winebanks. Coming up in a moment, we're going to talk to our friends. We're going to talk to our friends for Catholics for Choice. They've issued a press release, and they also have some thoughts on this. So we look forward to hearing from our friends from Catholics for Choice. We're going to talk to Tina Garza in just a moment. We're joined in studio again by Dan Schaefer. I'll take your calls and texts in a little bit. First, let's take a break, and thank you to our sponsors: Source Solar, Kids Above All, and what's the other one? Oh, Minocqua Brewing Company. I'll be there on Tuesday. Thank you, everybody. And hi, everybody in Seattle listening in the evenings on KKW here on WCPT.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn Radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnights. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
So much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Our salesman, head of sales here at WCPT, popped his head in and said that Pope Leo is a Sox fan. I'm again waiting for confirmation that he's a Cubs fan. I'm not going to be disappointed by these comments, right, Dan?
Yeah.
I just found I was writing a piece on. The firefighter who just passed away, who was killed earlier in April. And so I was digging through a lot of photos, and I found photos of myself from like grade school, high school, college, and I found I apparently wore Sox hats when I was in college. Apparently. But it wasn't as big of a deal. I just loved baseball.
Yeah.
I just loved baseball. So hey, Lady B, can we call Tina Garza Lady B? Sorry. I had well, right now, I have over 150 baseball hats, by the way.
I did not know that, but oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay.
I think I started out the year with about 100 and some, but there was a sale on Chicago hats. They were $10 each. I bought a few of those.
How do you miss it?
And then some folks buy me hats as gifts. So I have a lot of.
I love that.
A lot of
Good
hats.
for you. Good for you.
Well, you know what's funny is I was watching. Have you ever watched The Diplomat with Kerry Russell?
Yes.
Right. So have you seen the episode with Allison Janney? And she's telling her, as a vice president, she's telling her to have a thing.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, you have to have a thing.
Yep.
Right? She said that RBG has the collars.
Hillary Clinton did the pantsuits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Madeleine Albright had the pins, right? And I'm like, oh, my thing is not good for professiontal use. Baseball hats and braids. Like, that's my look. But it's not good for, like, going into a meeting or standing at...
I mean...
I've picked a bad thing is all I'm saying.
Who's the senator from Pennsylvania? Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name.
Oh,
the senator from Pennsylvania.
Oh, Fetterman.
Fetterman. Yeah, he literally shows up in shorts and a hoodie.
I know, but I'm not.
But when you're saying like, I think a hat would be
better
fine.
than that.
Yeah.
No. Because we saw MG. Anyway, we saw.
Good
That's gross.
point. Okay, yeah.
We have Tina Garza on the line. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tina. Tina's with Catholics for Choice. What's your mood today? How's everyone doing?
Hi, Patti. Thank you so much for having me. Today is definitely a wild day. I am a fellow Chicagoan. I am a pro-choice Catholic and a new mom who returned from parental leave today to the office.
There you go.
Wow. So, it's nice to know that this big news waited for me to come back. But I think the whole organization is feeling cautiously optimistic about Pope Leo and are looking forward to what the next weeks and months and years are going to spell out for the church.
Yeah, I was very surprised. Now, were you following this even though you were on leave? Of course, you're following the news and everything that's going on. Were you surprised that it was Pope Leo from Chicago?
I certainly was. I think there's a really deeply rooted thought that the Pope would never be from the United States, that the United States already holds so much global power and has so much influence over different communities around the world that a Catholic, a Pope from the United States would not be chosen. And so it was certainly an upset from who I was thinking that would be chosen. But I think that, as I said, we're optimistic and we're looking forward to what Pope Leo is going to continue and build off of from Pope Francis.
Well, while we're sort of going through I'm sure you've seen all the memes and the joy. I don't think there's any other American city that would have done this as well as Chicago.
I know.
Right?
I love it.
I mean, that was fast with the Bears symbol on the on all of the gear and the old style, Italian beefs and the medallion of deep dish pizza. But tell folks about Catholics for Choice, because I think we've talked before, or I know I've talked to folks from your organization. My in-laws were Catholics for Choice, and I think people are surprised to find groups that support women's reproductive health. So tell us a little bit about your organization. Yep.
Absolutely. It's always funny to me when the narrative is that people are so surprised that, number one, Catholics for Choice exists, and number two, that we have enough support to exist. But the reality is that only 1 in 10 Catholics in the U.S. Support the church's teachings on abortion and contraception and inclusion of LGBTQ folks in the church and reproductive technology. And, it's really important that the work that we've been doing, the work that we started around the time that Roe became the law of the land in the 70s, was that Catholics are not alone in supporting reproductive choice and for making decisions about their bodies. And what is best for themselves and for their families. And, I think that part of the work that we do is breaking down that misconception that you cannot be Catholic and be pro-choice. And we do that through storytelling. We do that through giving people the courage to speak their values and their faith at the same time.
I think that's important for folks to understand is that there are so many people that, kind of are rigid in their thinking. And I think part of what makes the Catholic Church so vibrant is the ability to go, okay, how do we want to approach this in our Christianity and our Catholicism, our religion, based on our understanding of the modern world, right?
Right. And that's certainly something that we are looking forward to how Pope Leo interprets, because so much of the work that he has done, both in the U.S. and in Peru, and in working with the bishops from around the world, has been encountering communities and encouraging conversation. It was one of the first things he said in his address today was a call for dialogue and building bridges. And we think that what that means to us, certainly at Catholics for Choice, is listening to those stories of those who have had abortions and who faithfully believe that making a decision for yourself and promoting reproductive justice is aligned with Catholic values. And so, we're looking forward to having more opportunities for conversation and more stories to be heard. Because, as you said, that really is the root of the church. It's people are coming from different places and different narratives, and there's such vast diversity. And that includes those who have chosen reproductive choice.
We are talking to Tina Garza, who on her first day back from maternity leave with Catholics for Choice has returned to this amazing news. And we want to talk about your press release that Catholics for Choice issued. Would you mind hanging on the line through the break and talk to us a little more?
Of course, no problem.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break. We also have in studio my guest co-host and filling in the second hour. We'll be talking to Jill Weinbanks. Dan Schaefer joins us. More after this on WCPT and KKNW, our friends listening in Seattle, Washington. Hi, everybody.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Clear skies tonight. Could see some areas of frost in the northern and western suburbs. Temperatures falling back into the low 40s, but cooler in the suburbs. Northeast winds at 15 to 30 miles an hour. Friday, sunny with high temperatures in the upper 50s. Saturday, sunshine and a high temperature around 68 degrees. Sunday, lots of sun and a high of 66. Monday, sunny with a high temperature of 69. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 55.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Fear everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I said it's just two different ways of creating an acronym for the letters of the word fear. One choice is to fear everything and run, or face everything and rise. And I think that right now, we as progressive liberal Democrats have the opportunity, like no other, to face everything and rise.
Richard Chew, weekday mornings at 6 on WCPT 820. WCPT Replay.
A guy who wants to become a dictator always begins by changing how the government works. He says, I got a better way and it'll all work out. In the process, he breaks a bunch of laws, but people mostly don't do anything about it or even say anything about it because those laws don't directly affect them. Then people start resisting, which is when he begins to use the police power of the state. Next, it'll be the press. First, they'll use financial terror to force compliance. We're already seeing that with Trump's lawsuits against all three major networks and multiple newspapers. That will expand. Eventually, it's going to turn into shutdowns and arrests. He's going to remake our schools so they become indoctrination factories for his white male supremacist worldview and this new authoritarianism. America today is early in this process, although it doesn't typically take very long. It took Hitler 53 days.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
County continues to get out the vote and elect progressive candidates, so it's no wonder that there are now several local retailers carrying progressive beer from Minocqua Brewing Company. Be sure to grab yours from Famous Liquors in Lombard, Arminetti Beverage Mart in Roselle, Doty Liquors in Elmhurst, and Bobby's Liquor Warehouse in Carroll Stream, conveniently located next door to the DuPage County Democratic Office. A full list of Illinois locations that offer the Resistance lineup of beer is posted at the top of the Patti Vasquez Show Facebook page, as well as at MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. And as I mentioned earlier, my city has done me proud today in their reaction to Pope Leo the 14th. I've already just called him Pope Leo the 14th because Tina Garza from Catholics for Choice. I'm not entirely. I can't remember what his real name is. Dan Schaefer.
Presto is
what's his last name?
Last name Presto.
Presto?
Yeah.
Like magic? this is all magic.
Robert Prevost.
Prevost. Sorry, yeah, I was googling because it's so new. So I'm like googling it on the way in, and I'm just like, okay, what's happening? What's going on? Yes,
Let's be fair, Dan. I rubbed off on you. I'm terrible with names.
Okay,
you are not. It just happened in a moment.
I had a moment.
I am feeling. I'm not even. To full disclosure, as I mentioned earlier, Tina, I am Irish Mexican, not Catholic. We don't know. We don't know why either. It just happened that way. I am really excited. And I think a lot of folks are, regardless of their religious upbringing, background. I think this is exciting for everybody because of what's going on internationally.
It happened way more quickly than I was expecting. Way more quickly than I was expecting like a 5 to 7 day type thing, but it Yeah.
Why do you think folks are so excited, Tina? What do you attribute that to?
I think a couple things. I think, first and foremost, because it is so marvel that a pope is American, it seems like something that would never happen. And I think certainly for progressive Catholics like those at Catholics for Choice, whether intentional or not, Pope Leo is immediately going to be cast as a foil to the Trump administration, and certainly to comments from Vice President Vance, who is a Catholic convert. And I think it spells, a little bit of hope and optimism that we're going to see a Catholic, but ultimately an American leader on a global stage who is going to be speaking for pro-immigrant and workers' rights and peacemaking and economic justice, and we're not seeing that come from leaders in our country right now. And so I think it's breeding a lot of hope, and certainly, folks who are on the margins always, whenever there's a change of leadership, have reason to have some concern. Certainly in the Catholic Church, where there's so much dominant narrative that is not in support of those who have received abortions, of those who are LGBTQ, of those who have received gender-affirming care. And so there's definitely folks that are also concerned, but I think there is a dominant feeling of hope. And as I said at the beginning, cautious optimism for what we're going to see with Pope Leo.
So, sorry, if I may.
Yeah,
Tina?
please.
Okay. So my thing, so I've been in Catholic schools for my entire life. And I will be the first person to call out hypocrisies within the Catholic Church. And one of the things that was, once Pope Francis came in and people started criticizing him, I was like, all right, well, now I have questions about your faith overall.
Yes.
Because what he was saying was like, this is what the church was. And I want to remind everybody that, like, Jesus literally flipped tables over when he was like, no, this is not what the temple is used for. But once people started questioning his teachings about, like, this is what the church stands for, we accept everybody, we are, that's when I was just like, all right, this guy's good, and I think this new guy is going to be good too. But it's going to be we're entering into a transitionary period where there is going to be critics, there are going to be people. How do you feel like we should be thinking about these critics that are going to be coming out of the woodwork?
I think something that is important and something that we focus on at Catholics for Choice is that we have an opportunity to, one, dispel messaging that has harmed others and honestly is not theologically sound. There's a lot of misinformation about what the church teaches, what the church says, where those teachings come from. And we have an opportunity to misspell those things when we see them. I think also, you brought up your point of there was so much optimism about the way that Pope Francis would talk about the heart of the church and the care for others and social justice, and how you're, looking forward to seeing that with Pope Leo. Something that comes up a lot in conversation when we were waiting to see who would be Pope is, what is the Pope going to choose as his name? And Pope choosing Pope Leo says a lot about what he's going to bring to the papacy. He chose a name in reference to Pope Leo XIII, who was the author of one of the most transformational documents in the church that spoke to workers' rights and social justice. And I think we are going to need to be pointing to the church has a history that's deeply rooted in social teaching and social justice and in caring for the populations that the critics are criticizing. And we need to feel bold in those words and courageous in what we are sharing and standing firm that you could be a progressive Catholic and hold your progressive values in tandem with your Catholic faith.
I love that so much, and we are in it was formerly St. Tarsus's parish. It's now Queen Elizabeth. No, Queen. It's of the Trinity. Elizabeth of the Trinity.
Oh, yeah.
Not Queen. Yeah. Not Queen. That was weird. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. I don't know where that came from. But I think when we we all got to vote. We were voting on, not me, because I'm not Catholic, but my husband and my sons are. But someone just texted me in regards to a parish. Someone just sent me the information. The Pope grew up in my neighborhood, my childhood turf. St. Mary of the Assumption Church is on the Chicago South Side. It's on at 138th Street, which is the edge of the South Side, Dolton and Riverdale on the other side. The church is now boarded up. Do you think that this is? I don't know how these things work. Do you think there's a possibility? One, as a stand-up comic, I am so excited that when I go on the road, I can say that I'm from the Pope's hometown. Like. It's amazing. I know Colbert, someone just texted Colbert is going to have a great time with this because Colbert went to Northwestern, where I know you are. Are you from Evanston, Tina?
So I am from Chicago. I was born and raised on the north side of Chicago, moved to Evanston a couple years ago.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school? I always ask folks.
So, great. I went to high school, Resurrection High School, all girls Catholic high school.
I'm familiar.
Went to college at Dominican University, a Catholic university. And so much of my values that are progressive Catholic values have come from those spaces, which I think people always find really interesting, that I spent my, most of my education in Catholic systems and am working at a pro-choice, abortion-affirming organization.
I kind of wish I'd gone to high school with you. I got fitted for the skirt at Resurrection. We paid a deposit. In 1985, it was like $107. I can't remember. But I broke out into hives. No, I'm kidding. I just couldn't do it, and I went to Lane Tech. But part of me wishes I'd gone to Res. First of all, it was closer. Are you from the neighborhood around Res?
I am. So my parents still live on the northwest side in Norwood Park.
That's where I went. I played baseball at Norwood Park and learned how to swim. Yeah, I went to Anahan first, then I went to Our Savior Lutheran. As I said, complicated religious background. But to that, having gone to Catholic schools, and so I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to get more involved. I think in the Catholic Church, I might not convert.
Absolutely.
But do you think that Pope? I think Pope Francis inspired a lot of folks. Do you think we have the possibility of Pope Leo carrying that on and perhaps bringing people back into the church?
Right. That's certainly the hope, but that's certainly my individual hope. That's the hope of Catholics for Choice. So many folks that support our work and who share their stories are those who grew up Catholic, went to Catholic schools, and decided, the church is not for me because it does not align with the values that Jesus spoke, and the values of caring for others and prioritizing the most marginalized. And I think that every time we see a Catholic leader who shows in their ministry those values and, most importantly, takes the time to speak to those who have been ignored by the church, women who have had abortions, LGBTQ folks, those who are divorced, those who have used IVF, who takes the time to really listen and encounter those folks, I think we do see people re-engaging and reinterested. Something that I've been saying today is if there's one Midwest value that I hope Pope Leo brings, it's the idea of you're always kind of caught in the doorway having conversation and you're trying to leave the family party and you keep talking and you keep talking and you keep talking. And I really hope that he starts inviting people into that doorway for those conversations and welcomes them in the legacy of Pope Francis and in an even deeper commitment to Catholic social justice.
I'm so excited. Let me, before we let you go, let's take a phone call from Roosevelt. Yeah. I'm on line with Tina Garza from with Catholics for Choice, and in studio is Dan Schaefer, who's taking over at 6 for a conversation with Jill Weinbanks and with you. Roosevelt, you're on the line with us. What's on your mind, my friend?
Thank you for taking my call. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Thank you for not cutting your hair while you're waiting. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me tell you what I read into it. First of all, this Pope is only a year older than me. He was born on September 14th, 55. That's one connection. Second connection. This is the second consecutive Pope that they picked that has roots in South America.
Yeah.
Also, the second consecutive Pope, if I'm not mistaken, that his native tongue is Spanish. From what I understand, his mother is, I believe, Spanish. I'm not sure about if I read that right. But the way I see it this way is the fact that I think he's going to continue in Francis's steps, as far as what the young lady said earlier, inclusive, open-minded, and the fact, what are the odds that the Pope would be from Chicago? I am stunned.
Yes.
I am stunned. Never mind.
Yes, good.
And that's, and I'm saying from the United States, the first one ever. So that's another thing. And then another thing that I noticed about this Pope, I mean, we don't know anything about him, but in my opinion, his first test is going to be, is he going to go in the way of Francis, meaning being as humble? To me, Francis was the best Pope in my lifetime because he was humble up to the end, up to the way and what he didn't want anything extravagant when it came down to the way he was conducting himself around the world. And Pope, I believe he was one of the first popes I've ever seen. He actually would go out into the streets and wash the feet of poor people.
Yeah, he left the Pope mobile.
I have to wrap up. I'm up against the break. You know, I'm on stricter rules. You want to wrap up, Roosevelt? Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's mainly what I want to say. His first test is going to be, is he going to conduct himself, you know, like the other popes, you know, the guy with the red shoes, or is he going to be like Francis, humble and meek and really what the Catholic religion should be?
Yes,
you know?
I agree. What are your thoughts on that, Tina? I think
something, you know, that's important is Pope Leo is Augustinian, and part of what is such a firm belief is that you are Christian first, which means you are a fellow to others, and you are a bishop or a leader second. And I think we're going to see more of that humility and more of that social justice focus moving forward.
And as a Pope from Chicago, Larry in Wheeling just texted, he's from Chicago. He's a Pope on a mission, like the Blues Brothers. See, he's on a mission. Anyway, from a mission from God. Tina, how do folks get involved with Catholics for Choice?
Yeah, absolutely. Best way to get involved with us is to check out our website, CatholicsForChoice.com. Share your stories with us. If you are a Catholic, a former Catholic, and you want to share your story on your progressive Catholic values, CatholicsForChoice.com/stories. Feel free to reach out to us. We would love to get you involved.
And we will have you back very soon because I want to talk some more with you. If you're on the north side, come visit your parents. And we're right over here in Jefferson Park, so you need to come see us. Is all I'm saying.
That sounds great, Patty. Thank you so much.
I'll take you to Super Dog. All right, thank you. I'm not kidding.
Thank
Let's do that, of course. I get the Whoopski Dog. I'm more of a barbecue sauce and the onion bun. Anyway, have a good night, Tina. Congratulations on the baby and everything else that's happening right now.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a good evening. Right, let's take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to a new elected in Wheeling. When we come back, we're going to talk to Lorri, who has been elected to a trustee in Wheeling, Illinois. We're in studio with Dan Schaefer, who's taking over at 6, and going to be talking to Jill Winebanks. So don't go anywhere.
A better life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Here's the good news. You've made it through cold and flu season. But no matter what time of year it is, we all want our immune systems functioning at peak performance. In addition to staying up to date on vaccines recommended for your age, there are 3 tried and true things you can do to boost your immune system. Okay, number 1, cut back on ultra-processed foods. Studies have linked them to impaired immune function. Number 2, get the recommended amount of physical activity every week. Not only does that reduce your chance of developing chronic disease, we now know exercise actually stimulates your immune system. Number 3, aim for better sleep. Sleep often gets the least attention, but research shows that sleep deprivation induces immune changes that can actually increase the risk of various diseases. Of course, don't forget the simple things, like washing your hands. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, outdoor and home essentials, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online now through May 14th. Not a rewards member? Join for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me in studio is guest co-host Dan Schaefer. He's the host of Tuesdays with Josie, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And he'll be hosting the second hour of this show and interviewing Jill Wine-Banks. He's in studio with me now as we talk to newly elected Wheeling Township trustee Lorri Grainawi. I had it for a second there, Lorri.
You said it.
Grainawi. I had it for a second. And thank you so much for your patience and flexibility with this news day, Lorri. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm hydrating, but we want to congratulate you on your election, on your win. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, my friend?
I grew up in Chicago. I went to school all through the public schools and moved out to the northwest suburbs. When was that? Probably about when I was 30 years old.
Okay.
And I got a job out here, and I've been living in the northwest suburbs ever since.
Oh, awesome. I used to, when I was a kid, there used to be a restaurant near the Wheeling Airport that my friend's dad took me to. I love that area. There's something about it that, like, it's a working class suburb, right? Mm-hmm. With a lot of folks that have a strong sense of community, wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. Go ahead.
I was going to say Wheeling Township encompasses actually 5 suburbs in part, and then a little bit of a couple of others. So Wheeling, Arlington Heights, where I live, Prospect Heights, Mount Prospect, Buffalo Grove, so quite a few.
Okay. I've also, I spent a lot of time in Arlington Heights because my dad loved going to the racetrack. So neither here nor there. But what inspired you to run for office?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I never thought I would run for office, never, ever. A group of us, I'm very involved with mental health, and a group of us decided to create a community mental health board. We started working on it back in 2021. We had to get lots of signatures to get the referendum on the ballot, and we were super excited when it passed in November of 2022, only to quickly realize that the township board and supervisor at that time really wouldn't support it in some really critical ways. And I got frustrated enough that I decided to run for office and make some changes.
That's outstanding. And what were you surprised by when you, because a lot of folks, kind of go into it and have sort of these ideas. Some people just go in wide-eyed and just let it unfold the way, it's going to unfold. What were some of the steps you took to sort of prepare yourself, and what caught you off guard, would you say?
In the whole election process and in the campaigning process?
Yeah, right.
I haven't been sworn in just yet, so swearing in is May 19th.
I mean running for office. Yeah. Definitely running.
Yeah, running for office. Oh, boy. Yeah, it was a lot. Luckily, working on the referendum, I had a sense of what a campaign was going to be like. What was really different is I ran with a team, so there were 5 of us running for the township positions, and we all won. So we flipped the board, which is super exciting. But it was a lot. Yeah, thank you. It was a lot more fun. It was a lot more energizing to be working as a team. All the collaboration. So that was something really different. And that was really the best part about it. And I have to say, I'm very glad it's done. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
I loved meeting everybody, but it was very time consuming.
Oh yeah, I don't think people understand like all the different things. Whether it's the call time, trying to raise money for your campaign, the door knocking, the events, and the persuasion part of it. I mean, you're selling yourself to people. Was that something that you were comfortable with, or was it something you had to sort of learn along the way?
Definitely had to learn along the way. That was the biggest difference. When I was talking about the referendum and asking people to vote yes, I was talking about a thing. Vote yes on this referendum. This will help mental health, substance use disorder, intellectual developmental disabilities. Like, that was something everybody could buy into. But, for the election, it was about me. And so my values for that made a big difference. But it was definitely about selling myself and my team, what we were standing for, what we were trying to do.
And tell us a little bit more about the 708 Mental Health Board.
Oh, boy, they are one of the best things ever. What I really like about them is they're mandated to support those three things. And the money that they have that they get from levies, it can only be spent on those things. So, like nowadays when budgets are tight and everything's looking at getting cut, I mean, that money can't get cut. It has to go to those three things, and it's wonderful.
That's amazing. It really is the kind of thing that I think a lot of communities would love to have. What was the sort of the genesis behind? Because I'm not familiar with other townships necessarily, and I'm sure that the people are making strides in supporting communities. But what was the genesis behind creating the mental health board?
I worked with, I'm on the board for our local NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and a few of us were talking about, how do some of these other NAMIs, how do they get funding to do these things? How are they making this happen? They're doing more within their communities than we're able to do. Because we were going to state legislators, and, it's hard to get money for things. And Cook County is huge, so, that was hard. And so then we found out about these 708 boards, and we were like, oh, this is amazing. And not only is it a source of money, but one of the big things they're supposed to do is to help collaboration within the community. So help get all the different agencies and affected parties together and really help people to work together on all these issues. So what are you doing? Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's not duplicate services. What are you seeing that's needed? And get that collaboration really going. So, we heard about all that, and we were like, man, we have to have one of these.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's key, is the collaboration piece of it, because I feel like when you have multiple moving parts, certain people don't talk to each other, and you realize that there are, we'll call it wasted resources that could be leveraged. And so it is that collaboration piece. But it takes somebody like you who's like, you know what, I'm going to run for this, to be that connector. And we talk about this all the time about how local elections matter. And I think this is a brilliant example of how local elections matter.
Yeah, absolutely. We said that in our campaign, the five of us, over and over. Local elections really make a big difference. Like, if you're concerned about what's happening at the national level, you really need to vote local. Make your voice heard, and, let's make sure that our neighborhood, our community is protected.
And before we let you go, and again, we've been talking to newly elected Wheeling Township trustee Lorri Grainawi. What's your mission? What's next for your vision for Wheeling Township?
That's a great question. I think one of the first things is just that collaboration piece, trying to bring together all the agencies. The township funds 29 different organizations, and they don't have any meetings where everybody gets together and talks about what they're seeing. So I'd really like to see that piece and come into play. But most importantly, we need to issue the levy. So there's supposed to be a levy for all these mental health boards. And while Wheeling Township did everything else that they're mandated to do by law, they never issued the levy. So we really need that funding piece in place.
Well, I'm so grateful, and again, we're thrilled that you've won the election. We'd love to check in with you again as things develop, and if you have anything you want to tell our audience about, we'd love to hear from you. And we wish you all the very best. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Of course, our pleasure. Have a good night. Go get them. Thanks, Lorri.
Thank you.
Take care. And, of course, we were talking to Lorri on the Credo Mobile line, by the way. Credo Mobile, better for the planet and better for people. Dan Schaefer is taking over, and I'm going to go see my son perform in a play.
It's exciting.
I'm going to go see him in Cactus Flower, so I'm very excited about that. Okay. Enjoy. Dan, it's all yours. Jill Winebanks is on with Dan in just a few minutes. Thank you, Lady B, for everything. Thank you to our sponsors, Source Solar and Monaco Brewing Company, and, of course, our friends KKNW. Bye, everybody. Let's take a break here, and Dan Schaefer will be back with you.
If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Suzanne called after hearing me explain discount points on my radio show because her son was purchasing a home in Colorado. I answered Suzanne's questions and encouraged her son to call me for a free consultation. Suzanne was so impressed with the service I provided, she wrote this 5-star Google review. Quote, I sent David an email today with a question about discount points that I heard him talk about on his radio show. And he called me back this evening with a complete explanation. I'm so impressed with his responsiveness and knowledge. Thank you, Suzanne, for the amazing review. I strongly encourage everyone to check out Team Hochberg's close to 600 5-star Google reviews. Team Hochberg helped Suzanne and thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-461.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Cheering in St. Peter's Square as white smoke emerged from the chimney atop the Sistine Chapel.
Habemus Papam.
Signaling Catholic cardinals had chosen a new pope.
Dominum Robertum Franciscum, Sancte Romane Ecclesiae, Cardinalem Prevost.
Cardinal Robert Prevost, now to be known as Pope Leo XIV. Sagar Magani has more.
Pope Leo XIV is the first American pontiff. Given the geopolitical power the U.S. holds outside the religious sphere, there had been a long-standing taboo against having an American pope. Now, Robert Prevost is St. Peter's heir.
What greater honor could there be?
President Trump at the White House, while outside Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral.
And a Chicago boy, yes. Okay, come on, Chicago.
Prevost is a Windy City native.
A very kind person.
Larry Sullivan on WLS-TV. While America claims the new pope, so too does Peru, where he was a missionary and archbishop. The pope's a citizen of both nations, and the first pope from each. At Lima's Cathedral, Cecilia Encina says she's very excited. One of their own has assumed the throne. I'm Sagar Magani.
The Pentagon will immediately begin moving as many as 1,000 openly identifying transgender service members out of the military and is giving others 30 days to identify themselves. The Trump administration's asking the Supreme Court to allow it to end humanitarian parole for more than 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The U.S. and Britain have struck a trade deal. President Trump's baseline 10% tariff on British goods remains in place, but import taxes on UK autos, steel, and aluminum are being cut. Wall Street reacted positively, the S&P and the Dow each gaining about 0.6%. This is AP News. Bill Gates says he'll donate 99% of his remaining fortune to the Gates Foundation,
which will now plan to close in 2045. That's earlier than previously planned. Today, that fortune would be worth an estimated $107 billion. The pledge is one of the largest philanthropic gifts ever. Gates' donation will be delivered over time and allow the foundation to spend an additional $200 billion over the next 20 years. After that, the foundation will close.
The need of course, is far greater than what we can do, but we'll be showing that we're doing the most we can and give a lot of predictability to the field by having this, we'll be here all of those 20 years, but not thereafter.
Gates says spending down his fortune will help save and improve many lives, which will have positive ripple effects well beyond the foundation's closure. It'll also make it more likely that his intentions are honored. I'm Haya Panjwani.
And I'm Ben Thomas, CP News. Thanks for listening.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Clear skies tonight. Could see some areas of frost in the northern and western suburbs. Temperatures falling back into the low 40s, but cooler in the suburbs. Northeast winds at 15 to 30 miles an hour. Friday, sunny with high temperatures in the upper 50s. Saturday, sunshine and a high temperature around 68 degrees. Sunday, lots of sun and a high of 66. Monday, sunny with a high temperature of 69. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 54.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Kids are spending more time than ever in front of screens. Could it affect how they recognize emotions? A study at UCLA found that sixth graders who went 5 days without exposure to technology were significantly better at reading human emotions than kids who had regular access to phones, televisions, and computers. Karen Donato from the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute has advice for parents.
Children just aren't getting the recommended 60 minutes of daily physical activity. Cutting back on screen time can help. Parents, limit screen time to no more than 2 hours a day. Also, keep the TV out of your child's bedroom. Children who have TVs in their room watch almost 1.5 hours more each day. Finally, make TV active time by doing some simple physical activities.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the 1830s in Lowell, Massachusetts, during the rise of the textile industry, factories were hiring large groups of women ranging in ages 18 to 35 to work at their mills. The workdays were 13 hours long and had poor working conditions. By 1834, the textile market was sluggish. In response, the workers' wages were reduced by 12.5%. One of the workers, Julia Wilson, tried to organize the women to get their wages back, only to be terminated abruptly. Wilson signaled the women to strike or turn out. Over 800 women marched and signed a petition saying we will not go back into the mills to work unless our wages are continued. Ultimately, this strike failed, but they learned from their mistake and successfully battled back a rent increase on their boarding houses 2 years later. By January 1845, about a dozen of the Lowell female textile workers came together to form the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association. This would become the first organized union of women workers in American history. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
And hello, everybody. This is Driving Home with Patti Vasquez. I am not Patti Vasquez. I'm sorry you were stuck with me, Dan Schaefer, filling in for her. Welcome to our listeners from KKNW in Seattle and KTNF in St. Paul, Minneapolis. I am so excited to introduce a guest that I have been fangirling over for quite a while. She is everything, an attorney, legal analyst, co-hosts podcasts, Sisters-in-Law, which I recommend you listen to all of those. And I just don't know when she sleeps. And I left her book, which is phenomenal, for last because I think that it's the most prevalent, also known as the Watergate Girl. And it is her tagline is "My fight for truth and justice against a criminal president." And so I want to say hello, my friend Jill. How are you today?
I'm good. It was so nice to see you in person, Dan, on Saturday. I loved it. It was a great event.
Yes, it was amazing. Absolutely. How are you today?
I am good physically and mentally, but depressed because the world is got so much wrong with it because of Donald Trump.
I wanted to ask you that, and that's why I left the last part of my intro view, because we literally have a convicted felon as our current president. So what is going through your mind these days?
Well, that I probably need to change the title of my book, Fighting for Truth and Justice Against a Criminal President Not Named Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump makes Richard Nixon look like a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he isn't. He was a crook, but nothing compared to this, because Donald Trump doesn't believe in the rule of law. He doesn't even understand what the rule of law is. When he was asked on NBC's Meet the Press by Kristen Welker, well, isn't it your obligation to enforce the Constitution? He said, well, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Every third grader probably knows the answer, that the Constitution requires that it be followed by the president, and that his oath of office, that he's now taken twice, says that you have to defend and protect the laws and Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get how he could say that, and he's violating due process every day. And he actually, in the same interview, said, well, due process is just too cumbersome. It takes too long, and it's standing in my way of deporting people who need to be deported. Well, the Supreme Court said you can't deport people unless you give them due process. He's deporting people claiming that because they have tattoos and may or may not be Venezuelan, that they're members of a gang.
Mm-hmm.
But, in fact, we don't even know that they're Venezuelan. We don't know that they're members of a gang.
Right.
That's what due process is for. You put people in front of a court and you let them be proven to be what he's saying. And unless you can do that. And then, Dan, if I could add one more thing,
Sure.
we just learned, which is that the intelligence community had a sense of the community memo that says, in fact, their research shows that this is not a government-run gang, which is part of what he used as his reason for invoking the Enemy Alien Act,
Mm-hmm.
which was to say, well, this is a government invasion because the gang is the same as the government. Well, his own intelligence community, through the Freedom of Information Act, was required to disclose this memo that says there's not really any evidence that it's part of the government. So there's no grounds for invoking the act, which requires that there be a government invading us.
Yeah.
There's no government invading us.
Right. And I'm surprised the fact that they disclosed it to begin with, but I'm glad that they at least did that.
Well,
my question,
yeah.
One question for you is, how are you viewing the fact that there is no checks and balances right now? There are no, and it's a co-equal branch of government that is saying, like, they're supposed to keep the executive branch in check. Executive branch executes the law, judicial interprets the law, and it just seems like they're being ignored and also arrested.
Well,
like,
I haven't given up hope. The only thing that keeps me going is that so far the courts have largely said you can't do that. A judge specifically said the Enemy Alien Act does not apply because there's no invasion and there's no war.
Right.
There's no government attack. You can't use that as an excuse. You must give due process. And the Supreme Court said, yes, you have to give due process before you deport people. So far, he hasn't actually sent plane loads of people away since then.
Yeah.
He has threatened it. He was going to now send people to Libya. He sent people already to a horrible, let's not call it a prison. It's not a prison. A prison is somewhere that we would send people after a trial, after a conviction, after a sentence. These are either gulags or concentration camps.
I was going to say concentration camps, but yes, you.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of pushback against using that phrase, but honestly, I don't think it's an illegitimate phrase.
I agree.
And it is, the Russians use gulags, where they just pull people off the street and sent them. And this government has been trying to evade the application of laws. So, for example, they were told that they could not deport so they had the Department of Defense take over and say the Department of Defense is going to deport them. It's not us. We're covered by that law, but the Department of Defense isn't. Well, the court came back and said, no branch of government. You can't transfer them anywhere. You can't take them out of my jurisdiction to evade complying with my order. And so I think the courts are going to have to be 5 steps ahead of where the government has been. And so far, the independence of the judiciary has held, and we now have Justice Ketanji Jackson saying that this is an independent branch and we are what we are. And you had Roberts in less strong terms than maybe was ideal, but nonetheless speaking out saying we are independent and we will continue to interpret the law. And then you had Donald Trump saying, well, the executive branch should set the budget and the ethics. You can't create your own ethics rules.
No.
And the court is going to push back. The court is going to push back. So I am still hopeful that our democracy will survive with 3 branches of government. I wish they taught civics to children and that adults understood the role of the 3 branches.
Yeah.
And that the executive branch does not issue decisions or control of the federal government. Of the judicial branch, although, of course, the courts are subject to budgeting, which is something that Congress does. And, if Donald Trump gets on his high horse and says to Congress, defund the courts, unless there's an uprising by the American people, I don't know what would happen. I mean, I can envision all kinds of horrible things. I like to envision much more positive things, much more helpful things.
Well, and Justice Roberts, who I never thought I would actually like, but still don't. But he was in New York, I think it was yesterday, and he was talking. It was the
in Buffalo.
the 125th anniversary of the Western District of New York. Yeah. And he talked about, he was rebuking Trump's call to impeach judges, specifically James Boasberg, but then also said that the judiciary independence is central, and describing it as the only real political science innovation in the Constitution, and again reiterating that it is a co-equal branch of government. I don't think that Donald Trump is operating with that mindset.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
That is true, and he is completely wrong. But when you talk about his mind, I'm not sure how healthy his mind is.
Oh, I agree with you.
Or how educated his mind is. And that's kind of scary because, as I said, when he was talking about, due process, it just gets in my way. I mean, there is almost nothing more fundamental to our Constitution than that we all cannot be denied our rights without due process of law.
Right.
And yet and by the way, that says no person. It doesn't say no citizen, which means that even and there is a difference between asylum seekers and undocumented.
Correct. But
even undocumented people in the country have a right to due process. And so, and again, we don't know who is an asylum seeker in the group that has been sent to El Salvador.
Yeah.
But the reason we don't know that is because there was no due process.
Correct.
There was no trial. There was no evidence.
Yes.
We don't know that. Family members of the people who were deported have said, my husband, my father, my brother are not gang members,
right?
And they're good citizens. And can I add one other thing that I just learned?
Because we've got to move to a break. Are you okay to stay on for a few more minutes after the break?
Sure.
Okay,
sure,
great.
Absolutely.
All right. Sounds great. We are chatting with the fabulous Jill Wine-Banks. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in a moment.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, outdoor and home essentials, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online now through May 14th. Not a rewards member? Join for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
These are real stories of speech-language pathologists and the people they helped. He was in his 30s.
55 and far from home.
15 years old with multiple disabilities.
It was a traumatic brain injury.
He's bilingual but lost his English after the stroke.
Several surgeries led to his swallowing disorder.
His goal was to get back to work.
I used French during therapy.
Others almost gave up on the goal of him eating.
Oh, he was dedicated.
Together, we built his life back.
Social interaction was the key to helping him.
And he made it back to work.
When he ate, his friends cheered.
Everyone has the right to communicate.
And later, he was able to travel across the world to his family.
Are you or someone you know experiencing a speech, language, or swallowing disorder? An ASHA-certified speech-language pathologist can help. Visit us at asha.org/public.
She's kind of a big deal. Some people like to say it's only because of how she looks. She sticks her tongue out a lot. But there's just something about her that makes people do crazy things, like get tattoos of her face, or wait in line for hours just to say hi. Lil Bub is a 2-year-old cat, an Instagram celebrity with a following bigger than some 90s television stars. And it all started because she was adopted. You can't buy a best friend like Lil Bub, but you can adopt one. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Welcome back to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
And hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Driving Home with Patti Vasquez. I want to thank everybody who's listening on KKNW in Seattle, KTNF in St. Paul, Minnesota, or Minneapolis, and our favorite folks in Chicago area, WCPT. We are with Jill Wine-Banks, the author of the book, The Watergate Girl, My Fight for the Truth and Justice Against a Criminal President, which is so prevalent these days. If you do want to get it, you can get it pretty much everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play. You can download it on iBooks. But Jill, I wanted to point out that are you still, you partnered with local book stores and you can still send out signed copies of your book?
Yes, I did. There are a couple of local bookstores, Bookends and Beginnings in Evanston, and the Stall in Winnetka are two places where I go in if you order a book from them, and when you order it, say that you want it signed, and you can even say what you'd like me to say, or if it's a gift, to whom you want it addressed, whether it's to you or to someone you're giving it to. And that's always fun for me to do, is to see what people are thinking. And
that's amazing.
They just want me to sign my name. Sometimes they just want the name. So that's always fun.
Okay, so you're going to get one of those requests from me because I did the audio book, but I'm going to request one from one of those stores. So, yes. And you also are a podcaster. You are interviewing everybody. You are on MSNBC. You are just doing all of the things because we need your perspective on everything that's going on right now. And before we went to break, we talked about the migrant situation and about how. So one thing is that I found interesting, and I went to a Know Your Rights camp or a training for migrants in my community, and I learned so much about there are different types of warrants. There's an administrative warrant from ICE. There's a judiciary warrant from ICE. So, like, how, from your perspective, if somebody is at work or at school or even in their home, what should be the things that they need to understand and know about what to do, what not to do, what to adhere to, what they don't have to adhere to?
Well, you don't want to put yourself in a dangerous situation. And unfortunately, we worry about that. People are being pulled off the street without any judicial warrant.
Right.
And that is concerning. We have a judge in Wisconsin who was arrested when someone came into her courtroom claiming to be from ICE and with an administrative warrant, and she said, "I'm sorry, we only recognize judicial warrants. Go talk to the chief judge." And then the person who was being sought in her courtroom left the courtroom, and so she was charged with helping him to escape, which the facts are very unclear, and it's not clear whether she helped him or not. But in any event, she certainly didn't need to be arrested. She is a judge. She could have been told to show up, and that would have been enough. But in terms of rights, I think it is important for everyone to understand their rights. And you do not have to open the door in response to every knock. That is not an obligation you have. If someone says, "I have a search warrant," and shows it to you, then you may have to open the door because otherwise they're entitled to break it down. But short of that, you do not have to. If they show you an arrest warrant, that might also be true. But I think people need to understand, and of course the problem is many people do not, English is not their first language, and so that it is tricky to know, and I just worry about people. There are armed people on the other side, people with those, I don't know what you call those logs that they bang in the door with, and so I worry about resisting in a way, but I would leave that advice to the people who deal with us all the time. The ACLU, who has been defending so many so admirably in this area, I would rather get advice from them than from me about what is the safest thing to do.
Got it.
And there's just so much other besides the immigration area where cruelty seems to be the point of it all, and scaring people so that they leave voluntarily. And they're now offering $1,000 to anyone who will leave voluntarily. I hate to say this, I don't trust this government. And if you go in to get your $1,000 check, I worry that you will be pulled off and deported immediately without your $1,000 check. But even with your $1,000 check.
The other part of it is, and you and I, you mentioned concentration camps. They're also asking people to register via an app. And so it's like, now we're having people joining a list.
Right.
I'm getting some 1940s. I'm getting some 1940s vibes. I'm not going to lie. Like it's yeah.
Or when was McCarthy era? You know,
exactly.
Gotta worry about that. It's terrible, and they're doing terrible things. So the thing I was getting all worked up about before we broke was in Texas, people have been arrested and paid bail money. They struggled, as you might imagine, to get that money. They begged and pleaded from relatives and other people, paid the bail money, and were then deported so that they could not show up for their hearings. And their bail money is being kept by the state of Texas. Shame on you, Texas. You deported them. You made sure they couldn't show up. That is not how it should be, and I'm hoping that every lawyer listening to this who is licensed in the state of Texas will start to defend those people and get their money back. It should not be kept.
Yeah.
That is it's terrible. I
agree.
So, cruelty seems to be part of the...
Texas in general seems to be cruelty, but
yeah, and Donald Trump. And the other subject I'm really hot on is that the Supreme Court allowed the transgender ban to take effect pending further resolution in the court. And I'm worried about that because, number one, once you disrupt the status quo, and openly transgender people have been serving in the military throughout the Biden administration with no ill effects.
Right.
So why not leave the status quo of people being able to serve? Why waste the money that has been spent in recruiting and training those people and leave them in place until there is a decision that is contrary to that?
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I think the equal protection of the law would mean they will not be ousted, that transgender service members have a right to be service members.
Right.
So I'm concerned about, one, the issuance of the ban, overturning the Biden era policy of allowing open service, and there's so many issues that we could get into that are like, why is the government doing this? Or even things like, why did he post a picture of himself as the Pope?
Oh my goodness. I almost said God. Oh my goodness, Jill. Right.
So what did you think, Dan? Why did he do that? Did he think it was funny?
I thought somebody who has committed all of the 7 deadly sins and broken most of the 10 commandments. We have to go to a break. But I do want to just, so Patti, when she left, she said that she's got to take some time off in June. So I'm going to be hosting a few of her shows. If you want to come back on, that would be absolutely amazing.
I would love to.
And I want you to ponder before that. Do you think that Alito and Thomas, we're going to see some retirements coming through, because then we get Donald Trump putting 2 more Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court?
2 more younger Supreme Court justices,
which pushes us to 4 decades worth of. Yes. My many thanks to Jill Wine-Banks. I really do appreciate you coming on and talking about this stuff. It has been amazing. The Watergate Girl, get the book and listen to her podcasts. You can get them anywhere you can find your podcasts. Sisters-in-Law. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jill. I really appreciate it. Hashtag Sisters-in-Law.
Hashtag, yeah.
Hashtag, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jill.
Dan,
I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, you take care,
Bye-bye.
okay? Thanks. Bye.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Clear skies tonight. Could see some areas of frost in the northern and western suburbs. Temperatures falling back into the low 40s, but cooler in the suburbs. Northeast winds at 15 to 30 miles an hour. Friday, sunny with high temperatures in the upper 50s. Saturday, sunshine and a high temperature around 68 degrees. Sunday, lots of sun and a high of 66. Monday, sunny with a high temperature of 69. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 54.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, experimenting, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, and connecting with each other. Leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready to begin? Explore teaching at teach.org, a campaign supported by the U.S. Department of Education, teach.org, and 1 million teachers of color.
When I first had my baby, I'd get comments all the time about how happy I must be. I remember thinking, I want to be happy. Why don't I feel that way? It was hard to admit that, even to my doctor. But I'm glad I did. She told me it was postpartum depression, and that is very treatable. These days, things are feeling good, and we're both happier about that. Right, little man? I'll take that as a yes.
Mental health care is working for Simone. See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
We need to speak out about this.
At 773-763-9278.
Hello.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Hello, everybody. It is hello, but it's not Patti Vasquez. It's Dan Schaefer. Sorry. She is on her way to see her child Griffin show tonight, and so we are excited for her. And whenever she asks me to fill in, here I am. So it is Driving Home with Patti Vasquez, but you get Dan. We welcome our KKNW 1150 folks in Seattle, KTNF AM 950 in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and our favorite folks in Chicago, WCPT 820. So I do want to, before we take calls real quick, I do want to just point out, so Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden were on The View today, which I thought was a good interview. And you could tell that Joe, you know, his age is hitting him, but also try to be president for 4 years, especially when you're in your 80s. It's not the easiest of job. And I always point out the fact that George W. Bush, Barack Obama, they all walked in with brown hair and they all walked out with gray. And Joe started with gray hair. So, you know, it was a really good interview. And one of the questions, which I just thought was hilarious, is why is Trump so obsessed with you? And he just goes, because I beat him. And it was him. And I was like, yes. So Joe still has it. Is he enjoying a well-deserved retirement? Yes. But as soon as he said, I was like, yes, Joe, thank you. But I just wanted to say that because I wrote it on my Post-it note this morning when I was listening to it. Let's go to Paul in Seattle. You've been on hold for quite a while, my friend. How are you doing, Paul?
Hey, Dan. I was listening to Jill Wine-Banks about the deportations and the defiance of the court orders of the Trump administration. And I thought,
yes.
You know, what occurred to me is all of this, you know, there's all kinds of things. Like we know that scriptures say that be kind to the stranger while you were once a stranger in a foreign land, all these kinds of things. But we don't even have to go there. Isn't the people who come for asylum to escape persecution, isn't that the exact same reason that the colonists came to America?
I think that actually goes back. Speaking of today's news with the Pope, that was technically Mary and Joseph with Jesus seeking asylum.
Right.
But yes, you're exactly right.
No, I'm saying, yeah, exactly. But I'm saying when Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus went to Egypt was one. But no, it also speaks to the fact that the people of Israel were strangers in a foreign land.
Yeah, and technically we have asylum laws in this nation. And you come and you seek asylum, and then there needs to be a due process, which is what Joe was talking about.
It's a fundamental concept that we accept that you have a right to find a safe place to live where you're not persecuted, which is how this country got started, this nation got started, and yet the Trump regime wants to essentially carry out what happened is, of course, the Pilgrims, the colonists got here, and the persecution didn't stop. That they started being the persecutors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't just over being Christian versus non-Christian. I mean, the Puritans and the Quakers, they just did not get along at all.
Well, also, like if you lived in England and you weren't a part of the Church of England, you know that didn't go well for you. So, I totally agree with you. That's why we have a freedom of not being persecuted by whatever religion you choose to practice in here, and that in this country. That could be Catholic, that could be Judaism, that could be even the Church of Satan. You have a freedom to not be persecuted for it. However, laws are being legislated that are going completely against that. And to what we were talking about earlier was just the teachings of Jesus was just welcome those that need help. Welcome those that, we're not doing that right now. We're actually doing quite the opposite.
It's right. And that's what brings me to, it just always just turns my stomach the way Donald Trump, he says that when, choosing an American Pope was a great honor. Wait a minute. It was a great honor? But wait, first of all, honor for whom?
Yeah.
For you? For the American people?
Honestly, Paul, because I was grabbing lunch and my mother texted me saying we have a pope, and I was like, oh really? Okay, so I was googling it and I realized, oh my God, he's an American. Oh my God, he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
And I went on Truth Social immediately because I do that because I like to torture myself. And I was waiting for the post that says, Donald Trump in some way, shape, or form was responsible for having the first American Pope. And he did a post, but he fell short of saying, this is my doing. But he did say the honor, like you just said. But he's going to take credit. Allegedly.
Well,
sorry.
Being the Pope is, first of all, only the Pope could say it's a great honor, but the being called as Pope, the Vicar of Christ, is the pinnacle of humility.
Correct.
It's the opposite of honor.
Yeah.
This guy just doesn't get it. In his first term, Trump said a couple of things. One of the, I don't know if you have to be a biblical scholar to understand this. I hope people don't. But when Trump said, "I'm a great Christian," and I am, I thought, do you know what words just came out of your mouth?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a great Christian, first of all, but when he followed that with I am, that's blasphemy. We harken back to Exodus chapter 3, Moses speaking to the burning bush, said, who shall I tell the people you are?
Yeah. Well, and
the bush said,
we got to this.
Tell them I am.
We got to this point at the end of the call with Jill, who I adore. It got to she asked about the photo of him as Pope, and I was like, well, I've looked it up because I'm a biblical nerd. I've read the Bible 4 times. He's committed all 7 deadly sins, and I'm gonna say,
yes,
the majority. He's broken the majority of the 10 commandments, and yet he's thinking that he's the most holier than thou. And yeah, so I totally get where you're coming from.
You'll see. We'll see what kind of great honor he thinks it is when the Pope says something. The Pope says something that he disagreed with, and we'll have J.D. Vance out there lecturing the Pope on what's right.
J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism in 2019.
Yeah.
So he's relatively new to the party. So
you mean he wasn't even a Catholic when he went to Yale?
No, he wasn't at all. No, he was not.
No, he's not, and he still isn't.
No, he still probably hasn't even touched a Bible, and Donald Trump, I think, didn't even put his hand on the Bible during his inauguration.
Well, and then the other thing is, what kind of billionaire sells the Word of God? Is that what?
How do you sell a United States of America Bible? How is that a thing?
And can't anybody who needs one get a? You can get a Bible for free simply for the asking.
I've got 5 sitting in my office. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This guy's hawking them for cash.
It's sneakers, it's gold coins, it's the Bible, he's going to sell whatever he can because he's a grifter, and this is the way that he has been so quote unquote successful, but not successful because you're not successful when you bankrupt a casino. But he's a con man, is really what he is. I have yet to watch. My mother was texting me. My mother and I text all the time. He was doing his interview, and she was basically like, how do people think that Joe Biden had cognitive issues and listen to this man talk, and all of a sudden, like, he's the genius? I'm like, no, that's not. Yeah, but people do. People believe it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like what's the name? Caroline Levitt said that. But she's calling his economic strategy strategic uncertainty. But remember when she said about the tariffs? She said apparently the economic leaders around the world haven't read The Art of the Deal.
You know what's funny is today they then announced the UK. 1 minute. They announced the UK trade deal, but it's like it's like a negligent amount of percentage of our GDP, so it doesn't mean anything. And I get whiplash whenever they talk about tariffs and we're not doing this, we're doing this, we're not doing this. There's no strategy. There is no clear economic strategy. And that's when you have toddlers in power. That's what happens. I am getting Lady B is one person that I never want to be mad at me, and I'm getting the we got to go to break. So, Paul, this was really great.
Take care.
Call back in anytime, okay?
Yeah.
Have a good one. We are on with Driving Home with Patti Vasquez. We will be back after these short messages.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's Progressive Talk on WCPT AM 820. Stream us live at WCPT820.com and on the TuneIn Radio app. Or you can ask Alexa, Siri, or Google to play WCPT from TuneIn. But now you have another option. We're simulcasting our programming overnights. 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. on WSBC AM 1240 for a clearer reception in and around the city. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. And now overnights on WSBC 1240 AM, where facts matter.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Being blind doesn't always look how others may think.
Retinitis pigmentosa aimed to overwhelm my family.
It tried to cut me down. I know where to find support and where I can be seen.
Innovative research, educational resources, supportive community. The Foundation Fighting Blindness is leading the charge in finding treatments and cures for blinding diseases. Learn more at fightingblindness.org. A public service message from the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lyons Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine, and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
From city streets to political beats, you're driving it home with Patti Vasquez, where progressive talk fuels the ride.
And hello, everybody. This is Driving Home with Patti Vasquez. This is Dan Schaefer filling in for Patti. We've had some really great callers today and guests on. But we have had, oh my God, my good friend Dave from Hoffman Estates has been on hold for literally 45 minutes. So, Dave, how are you, my friend?
Hello.
Thanks for sticking it out.
Hey, where were you at Saturday?
It was Jan Schakowsky had a event, which eventually turned out to be her retirement announcement. And that's where I saw Jill. And I just went up to Jill and I said, "Do you want to come on the show? I'm hosting for Patty." Jill said, "Fine." So yeah.
I thought you were at the 20th. That's what I was saying.
No. And honestly, Jan Schakowsky, it's a well-deserved retirement. She has done so much for everybody, and yeah.
Okay, and you were just talking on with Trump. The only phrase he ever follows is "In God We Trust."
Mm-hmm.
That's his Bible.
That's exactly it. And, what else is on your mind, my friend?
Well, I'm Protestant. I'm not, but just kind of looking after the Pope got, put in now. What's Trump going to say now that this man had the crowds that eclipsed his by hundreds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm sure he's going to steal that somewhere and then put it, this was
it's going to be, yep.
And then they showed, people crying and that in there, and that was from joy and not fear.
Well, and I think they said the Vatican can host, or the plaza in front, 250,000 people. So he's going to totally Photoshop that into some type of a, yeah.
Well, he did that, didn't he do that with an Obama crowd that time?
He did. He actually did. Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And what are those Trumpies going to do now when they first thought that Donald was going to be the son of Christ, Mm-hmm. Like you guys were talking about him with the Pope, that picture that they...
how does somebody do that and think that that's okay? I don't know. That's just me. Yeah.
The bit I know of it, I know they say that in that book they talk about that there'd be false prophets. And
it's actually called the Bible. It's called "Do not worship." It's actually one of the commandments: "Thou shalt not worship anyone besides me." That's actually part of the Ten Commandments.
And then don't you remember on his first hitch, that one guy made that golden bust of him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And but anyway, enough of that guy, But I got to thinking about these. We're gonna, need to pull together. Like that. I was reading where the Chinese had an expression, "gong he." I don't know if it's pronounced, but the meaning is work together. And this is where the Marines actually adopted this term for gung ho. And I noticed that Saturday at the 20th. I mean, everybody was just, it just seemed like everybody were friends. We were all friends there,
Yeah.
And because I had been at the other two before, and they were good, but there was just a different feel Saturday. I don't know. It's just hard to put the finger at it. But, like I mentioned on another show, and that we now are experiencing and seeing what Alice saw looking behind the looking glass, with this second term of Trump.
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah. And now, I'm sorry, I just should correct myself because it was "Thou shalt not worship any other God beside me," and the Ten Commandments just came to me. But anyway, but I agree with you because what we're noticing now is where in the first term of the Trump administration, he had certain individuals. Now we have individuals like Pete Hegseth and stuff where there's nobody that, and if you listen to any news conference or interview, and I watch a lot of Fox News and a lot of CNN, I watch news all the time, they praise him no matter where they are. Yeah. And so he's basically surrounded himself with just a bunch of people where there are going to be, with Jill Widebanks, we were talking about how just within the individual branches of government, there are seemingly no checks and balances at this point. There is no checks and balances within that administration because everybody is like, yeah, that sounds good. Good deal. Yep. All right, I'm on it. Yep, that's it.
Yep. No guardrails. No guardrails at all.
And that is terrifying because you got the Secretary of Defense who is texting his wife and brother about stuff. You've got Homeland Security, who literally left her purse so it could get stolen. Like there's no checks within this administration.
No. If we had I prefer to call Hank says I prefer to call him Otis Kegset.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
but,
that's right.
And I'll leave it at this because I'm sure that other might be waiting. You and Patty were mentioning about Fetterman. Well, I just read, I believe it was last night, he had a meltdown with this meeting with the Pennsylvania Teachers Union.
He did, yeah.
Kind of started babbling and stuff about, why they hate you,
yeah.
that kind of crap.
No, he definitely did, yeah. There was also a thing about how he was driving and he shouldn't have been driving. Yeah.
Playing Tommy Hager's I Can't Drive 55, I guess. Anyway, let me get off. I know I'd have others waiting. So
No, Dave, I always love chatting with you. Thank you for calling in.
Be well. We'll talk again.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I do have to mention one of our other valued sponsors, which is sponsoring our phone and text line, the Credo mobile phone and text line, which you can call us at any time, 773-763-9278, Credo Mobile, which is a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. I do want to also mention that because we don't have any other callers, so I can just do some self-promotion. I recently joined the Chicago Gay Men's Chorus because I just needed an outlet and therapy, and it's been really fun. And we have a show coming up Memorial Day weekend, May 23rd to the 25th. Friday, it is at 8 p.m. at the Studebaker Theater in the Fine Arts Building. Saturday, 8 p.m., the auditorium at Northeastern Illinois University. Sunday, 3 p.m., North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie. So it is 90s themed, so it's all 90s music, and it is going to be really fun. All of the dance hits and even some TV sitcom intro music. If you do want to purchase tickets, they range from $30 to $60. And as I mentioned, it is going to be a really good show. And I highly recommend it. And you're going to hear me sing, which honestly, you probably shouldn't want to buy tickets at that point. But if you do want more information, you can go to www.cgmc.org and you can order tickets. And it's going to be a really, really great show. I always love filling in for Patty. There is a lot more going on. Pakistan and India are apparently going at it. Apparently, Ukraine and Russia don't know what a ceasefire actually means. So there's always so much going on. But you can always come back here, WCPT, for any news that you want. And Patty's show is amazing. Call in, text in, do whatever anytime, because Patty's always willing to take your calls. And she said she's taking this off in June, so I will be filling in for her. If Lady B is okay with me signing off. Oh, not at all. Okay, all right, so we'll just keep talking then. We got a couple of texts in here. The Pope from America, that's a new one. That's true. That is the first in history. Pope from Chicago, also first in history. Mike in Evanston loves the fact that we have a Pope from Chicago. And some of the texts or the comments on our Facebook. Let's see here.
I'm excited.
And we have the constant troll. I hate giving him space, Bob Smith. Mm-hmm. No, I'm excited for it. I think that, like I said, I think that they selected an individual that will keep the church moving in the direction that it needs to move in, right? Yes, and if you identify yourself as an actual Christian, those are the views that you need, right? I'm a New Testament Catholic, not an Old Testament Catholic, right? The Old Testament is like God will smite you and kill you type thing. New Testament is more like Jesus, loving, support everybody, welcome everybody. That's me. And I will, and I've got 4 godchildren, and every time somebody asks me to be a godparent, I'm like, you know that I'm going to point out the hypocrisies of the Catholic Church, right? Like, it's totally going to be a thing, but I will support them. I will love them. It's great. Perfectly good. Yeah. All right. This is great. This was Driving Home with Patti Vasquez. I am Dan Schaefer, filling in for Patti Vasquez. Thank you, guys. You guys all have a great evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job. For the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs feature helps you stand out and hire fast. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM.